Length is a contentious matter. Some prefer things to be nice and long, whilst others are more than happy with something shorter and more manageable. Hey, no giggling at the back there, we're talking about video games here. It's serious. It has become a trend recently for developers to craft bigger and bigger games, worlds that are larger than you could possibly imagine. 100 plus hours of gameplay, more collectibles than you can shake a stick at, and maps that take forever to traverse. But more of something isn't always a good thing. Sometimes we just want to be able to finish a game, and the titles on this list far outstayed their welcome. Now, to be clear, don't get cross. We're not saying that any of these games are bad games, only that they'd probably be better if they'd learned to rein in just a little bit. I'm Ben from TripleJump, and here are 10 games that lasted far too long. Number 10. Don't get mad! The Legend of Zelda: Wind Waker. Games in the Legend of Zelda series have only grown bigger since the humble days of Link's first 2D adventure on the Famicom. Tears of the Kingdom boasts at least 100 hours of content for those willing to see everything in Hyrule, but its varied challenges and unique open-ended gameplay keep those hours from growing stale. The Legend of Zelda: Wind Waker, on the other hand, falls a little flat. The vast majority of the game is a wonderfully paced adventure, and exploring the Great Sea on Link's boat, the King of Red Lions, is a thrill that never gets old. Well, almost never. You see, right at the very end of the game, when players are gearing up for their final battle with Ganondorf, it throws them a curveball. All of a sudden, the story's momentum grinds to a halt as players are forced to scour the realm for 8 Triforce shards. And they really are scattered all over, including on a ghost ship and the 30th floor of the Savage Labyrinth. Even if players know where to look, this one quest can take an infuriatingly long time to finish. Thankfully, Nintendo understood how tedious this glorified fetch quest was and significantly shortened it for the HD re-release. Thanks, Nintendo. You're the best. Number 9. Ghost of Tsushima. There really aren't enough games that allow players to live out the full samurai experience, slicing and dicing foes with deadly precision, traveling from village to village, solving problems like some feudal-era superhero, writing haikus. Ghosts of Tsushima has it all. Taking the best parts from the Assassin's Creed series, Ghost of Tsushima lets players fully indulge in their samurai dreams. Stepping into the sandals of Jin Sakai, the sole remaining member of the Sakai clan, players must utilize both the honorable ways of the samurai and the dishonorable ways of the ghost in order to rescue their uncle and fight off the invading Mongols. Initially, gameplay is fantastic, allowing players to tackle missions however they see fit, switching between stances as a samurai or using smoke bombs and scare tactics as a ghost. Unfortunately, it also took on some of the worst traits of the Assassin's Creed games, that being their tendency to outstay their welcome. The game is split into 3 acts covering 3 different parts of the island, and while the first is beautifully paced, the second stumbles as ideas and mission types are repeated, and by the third, players are praying for it to end. Okay, I've had enough poetry and hot spring skinny dipping now. Can that guiding wind please just guide me to the credits? Number 8. The Last of Us Part 2. The original The Last of Us is a genuine masterpiece of storytelling. It isn't short, clocking in at around 14 hours, but it is perfectly paced to satisfy both its gameplay and story needs. Its sequel, The Last of Us Part 2, is almost double that length. Set 5 years later, it tells the harrowing tales of both Ellie, the young girl Joel spent the first game trying to protect, and Abby, a new character hell-bent on retribution. While dark and depressing, as well as a strong point of contention among fans, the story is beautifully written, masterfully performed, emotionally raw, and not without its moments of light and levity. The only issue is that it could have done with being about 10 hours shorter. Seeing this cordyceps-ravaged post-apocalypse from both characters' perspectives was an inspired choice, but it really feels like the player is working their way through 2 separate games. By the time they reach the halfway point in Abby's story, they might have forgotten about Ellie's plight completely. While the gameplay and combat remains a thrilling cat-and-mouse experience throughout, burnout definitely starts to set in around the 20-hour mark. If just playing through the apocalypse is this mentally draining, I doubt we'd last long in the real thing. Number 7. Days Gone. Zombies have been done to death, quite literally, so if a game absolutely has to have them, it's great to see a new spin on the formula. Distinct zombie subclasses and creative visual design are all well and good, but Days Gone decided the solution of zombie fatigue was to go big or go home. Players who picked up the game quickly found themselves overrun by hordes of bloated, shambling corpses up to 500 strong. The problem is, the zombies aren't the only thing that are bloated. Days Gone feels like a 15-hour experience stretched out into a 40-plus hour game. Players take control of Deacon St. John, a gruff biker dude who looks like he got lost on the way to a Sons of Anarchy audition and wound up on the set of The Walking Dead. The zombies, or freakers if you want to get all in-game terminology about this, are by far the highlight of the game, with a flight or fight panic washing over players as they realize quite how outnumbered they really are. The rest of the game just doesn't hold up in comparison. The open world is uninspired and the missions are mind-numbingly repetitive. Seriously, if I have to do one more, go here, find that, watch a tedious cutscene mission, I think I might turn into a zombie myself. Number 6. Middle-earth: Shadow of War. Trying to do anything related to The Lord of the Rings on a small scale is a fool's errand. J.R.R. Tolkien's genre-defining masterwork has more history and lore than the real world, so anyone hoping to do it justice needs to do their homework. Far longer and less focused than its predecessor, Middle-earth: Shadow of War's bare-bones story and tedious side quests left many players wanting. Undoubtedly, the game-changing Nemesis system is the MVP here. Turned up to 11 this time, it allows for some very real rivalries to form entirely systematically, with each orc, be they cutthroat or comedic, feeling unique to the player. While it carried players through the first half of the game, not even the Nemesis system could save the second half, which descended into a torturous slog designed solely to sell loot boxes. To beat the game, players must force themselves through hours of repetitive fortress invasions in the Shadow Wars, and to make things worse, the difficulty spikes dramatically, forcing players to spend even more time upgrading their army or succumb to buying loot boxes. Still, at least Shadow of War tried to do its homework and create something for the fans. Mostly, anyway. I don't remember the part in the book where enormous spider Shelob turns into a goth woman, but there we are. Number 5. Dragon Age Inquisition. A common video game tactic is to start big, to draw players in with something juicy and not let go until they're hooked. As a device to get players invested, it's been around for a long time, but somehow BioWare didn't get the memo. Now I know what you must be thinking, but Dragon Age Inquisition literally starts with a bang. What are you talking about? And yes, it's true. Starting a new game literally detonates the main menu screen with a pulsating wave of magical energy, tearing apart the land and the ever-marching column of soldiers, but the next few hours slow to a crawl. Not only is the world of Dragon Age heavy with nigh impenetrable lore, which will have new players pausing every 2 minutes to triple-check the codex entries, but it is also filled to bursting with dull, pointless fetch quests, which make the main character feel less like a powerful inquisitor and more like a harried postman. There's also another problem. Players aren't able to truly make decisions as the Inquisitor until they reach Skyhold, but to get there they have to plod through a tediously slow 10 to 12 hour long prologue. Nobody ever expects this Inquisition, but only because they're too busy collecting bear pelts to ever turn up. Number 4. Alien Isolation. Things get less scary the longer you're exposed to them. Run past him! Oh, he's grabbed me! Most things, anyway. I don't care how long you keep me in the water with that shark, I'm still going to be terrified, but it's definitely true of video games at the very least. Horror should be short and sweet, though try telling Stephen King that, so the audience never gets a chance to get used to the horrors. This is, unfortunately, where Alien Isolation falls down, as in an attempt to extend the game's runtime and give the player more value for their money, Isolation hamstrings itself. This is not a bad game. In fact, it's arguably the best Alien game there is. More so than in any other title, the prowling xenomorph feels like a true apex predator capable of using the environment against the player in clever and surprising ways, and for those first few hours, just seeing its skinny, silvery black form coil out of the vents is a pant-wettingly terrifying experience. Then, players get their hands on the flamethrower. At this point, the previously unstoppable monster can be held at bay with a well-placed burst of flame, and all the tension is lost. Somehow it gets even worse when the alien scarpers off and players are left with the creepy but dull working Joes. I suppose in space no one can hear you sigh? Number 3. Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a modern masterpiece, a game so determined to realize every possible aspect of life in the Old West that players could quite literally lose themselves in its world for months on end, completely neglecting their real-world duties. It's also got one heck of a story. Arthur Morgan's emotionally wrought and consistently thrilling tale of redemption is something all gamers should experience. Mix this with some fantastic shooting and an open world that feels more real than real life, and you can see why this is held up as one of the all-time greats. The only problem is, it's long. The first 4 chapters are lengthy enough, but keep the player invested through tense shootouts and high-stakes robberies, all threaded together by masterful dialogue and performances. Then, players reach Guarma. Washing up on the mostly deserted Caribbean island after a botched bank robbery completely kills the pacing. Not only are you trapped with the absolute worst of Dutch's gang, all of the fun side activities you'd come to love are locked off until this slog of a level is over. And if that wasn't enough, there's another chapter and a 2-part epilogue still to go. Turns out, you can have too much of a good thing. Number 2. Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Video game auteur Hideo Kojima isn't exactly known for making short games. Metal Gear Solid 4 had cutscenes that were over an hour long, for goodness sake. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that the last game in the series, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain, was a long one too. The problem is in how that length and the game as a whole was handled. It's no secret that Kojima and publisher Konami fell out during the making of MGS5, and that falling out led to the game being pushed out the door long before it was ready. The first chapter is by far the most complete and feels like the game Kojima was trying to make. Players take control of Venom Snake and are given free rein to complete a number of interesting and varied missions in any way they see fit. That and the wacky yet intriguing story, an eclectic cast of characters, and the desire to invest in upgrades at Mother Base keeps players coming back for more. Then, Chapter 1 ends. The big bad is killed, the Metal Gear is gone, and those once interesting and varied missions start repeating with alarming regularity. There are new story beats to be found in Chapter 2, but they come so infrequently that most players simply give up. Number 1. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Assassin's Creed, the series that saw a market of bloated, overstuffed open-world games and said, "Me too!" While the first titles weren't short, their focus on story and character first and side missions and collectibles second, apart from those bloody feathers, resulted in some truly unforgettable experiences. Then came Assassin's Creed Origins, which completely shook up the formula by removing everything that made the originals what they were and filling the game with more side quests and collectibles than anyone could possibly complete. But it sold well and led Ubisoft down the slippery slope to Valhalla. In Valhalla, players take on the role of Eivor, a charismatic Viking with a killer personality, and lead their protagonist across Britain, taking over each of its kingdoms by making alliances in turn. While that may sound fun, there are 16 massive territories to claim, each more difficult than the last and each requiring a number of story missions to complete before they can be taken over. The open world itself, while filled with mind-numbingly pointless collectibles, is otherwise a barren wasteland, and it's so large that unless you want to spend literal hours crossing by foot, you'll spend the vast majority of your time sailing up and down identical rivers on your boat. In the end, Valhalla was all filler and no killer. I swear, if I ever see another long boat...